Hey guys, it's Brigitte with San Diego Seed Company, and today we're going to do a tour of our April garden. And today's actually April Fool's, and I totally had all these great pranks in mind, but this video is not going to air until afterwards, so joke's on me. Anyways, not a very good prankster. So we're going to talk about today what is growing in the garden, things that I'm planting, things that I'm thinking about. We're just going to give a little tour of what it looks like on our seed farm. But before we do that, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button so you're notified anytime we put out a video. So let's get started. Now, I've said this a million times, and I'll say it a million times more, especially for those who are just joining our channel. Our farm is a little different because it's an urban farm, and it's also a farm where most of what we do is producing seed. We're either trialing plants to decide if we want to carry that seed, we're growing it out to produce seed, or we are growing it for photos or for other uses, basically. And so our garden may not look like yours, but it does have qualities of an April garden here in Southern California. It's beautiful overcast today, and we have taken the last few weeks of cool and wet weather to succession plant a lot of the crops that we want to bloom all through the summer. So a good example here is this is our scarlet sage flax, and what's really funny is if you look in any patch in our garden, you will see an evolution of what we've done seed production of before. You can see that we did cilantro here one year, we did amaranth one year, we did calendula another year, we did radishes another year. So you can tell what we produce by what weeds we have in our bed, basically. So you might say, wait, radish isn't a weed, amaranth isn't a weed. Totally is in our garden. Remember, a weed is just a plant that's out of place. In agriculture or gardening, we as humans love everything in very neat straight rows. We like everything, uniform. It's easier for harvesting. But nature is not that way. Nature does its thing. And so a weed is simply a plant that is in a place that is not good for your gardening or farming needs. So we've got some radishes there. I'm gonna leave them because they're not gonna hurt. But what I am gonna pull up is all these baby amaranths. And that's because these plants will totally take over the whole garden. And before you know it, this will become an amaranth patch more than it will become a flax patch. So these guys germinated really well because we've got irrigation, and we got super lucky and we planted it, and then we had a couple days of rain. So they are looking fabulous. I need to continue to come out here and water these and make sure they get enough moisture to get up and big and growing. At this point is what we call the thread stage. This is when a small seeding plant is the easiest to pick. So if you are doing weeding, you want to weed when the plant is really little, at the stage of its roots are almost a little thread. Now, the other part of that is, so for plants you don't want, pull them up at thread stage. For plants you do want, this is the point where you really got to baby them. They're so tiny, they're like little baby newborns. At no point do I want the soil to dry out. I can't let my chickens out right now because they'll come in and totally destroy this. You really want to protect them until they get bigger, and that includes from insects, that might come and mow them down. Which is actually a nice segue into looking at our squash patch. I'll show you how we transplanted those squash and how we are protecting them as they're tiny. So let's go. Fun fact for you guys. Can anybody guess what all these little holes are? There's tons of them. Look how many there are. There's a bunch of them. So I'm gonna let you guess in the background. Doo 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 doo. I can't even do it. What is the doo doo?
Yeah, I can't either.
Do 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 do. So this is like one of my favorite games to play, is go and try to guess what was digging in my garden. So some might think this might be a possum, because possums go and they dig in totally random places, and they don't tend to make as big of a mess as raccoons. But what this actually is crows. And it's a really cool ecology of why they're doing this. So they dig in these holes because they're looking for grubs. And in the mornings, you'll see them come, they'll hop down, they'll dig, they'll pull out a grub, they'll fly away. When this first started happening, I was concerned that it was an issue. And actually what they've done is they have brought down our Japanese beetle population by almost half, because they're eating the grubs when they're in the ground before they turn into the beetles that then prey on my figs and my peaches and all of that. So I welcome them to dig in my garden anytime, as long as they stay out of this patch. Okay, so this is our squash patch. We actually transplanted these out last week, right before the rain, which was perfect. And that begs the question, why did we transplant them out versus direct sowing them? Well, we transplanted them out because I was already doing a germ test on these. I was already starting these in the greenhouse to see what their germination rate was. They popped up very quickly. They were very happy, so we plopped them into the garden. You could just as easily direct sow these in really nice soil, and this is actually really good looking soil. I mean, look at this. It's moist. It's beautiful. For those of you who follow me on Instagram, you know I did a video about sifting soil on top of seeds. This would be a good example because there is lots of sticks and mulch and things that I don't want to land on top of the seeds. But all in all, good looking patch here. So when I transplanted them, I actually pre-treated the day before with Sluggo Plus. And that was just to take down the population of slugs and snails and pill bugs that were gonna come through here and potentially mow these guys down. Now I only had to treat once because these are gonna grow so big and so rapidly that they should be able to outgrow any threat that a tiny little pill bug or slug can pose on them. They're growing really nicely. They look really good. I'm not seeing any yellowing of leaves or browning of leaves, which would potentially show that either they're getting too much water or not enough water. In general, they look really good. This patch is actually going to grow, and I'm going to try to train them to go this way to get out of the way of what I have growing over here. And let's take a look at that. So over here, I've got more cilantro that's going to seed. I've got some beautiful onions in here. I mean, look at this patch of onions. They're insane. A little too closely sewn together. What do you think, guys? Whoa, okay, now come in here. Can you get in here and see? Look at all those snails. Look at all, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 snails right there in the nice, cool, deep area of the garden. So keep that in mind. So you can tell that these onions way too close together. Need to come in here and thin them. It's on my laundry list of things to do. But these onions did really well. The other thing to notice is look what's happening to our lettuce. See this long stalk? These are going to flower, which is exactly what I want. This lettuce is for seed production. So we actually didn't eat as much of it as I would have liked to because we were saving it to make sure that it had a big hardy plant before it went to seed production. So this patch may not look like yours. I'm sure you do have some flowering cilantro in your garden. That's okay. So I want to talk about this random tomato that's growing in the garden because I want to encourage you guys to look to nature and look to your garden to tell you what you should be planting next. You shouldn't always have to go on YouTube or on the internet in general. You can stop and look around at your own garden and look at what cues it's giving you. This is a volunteer tomato plant and it looks absolutely so happy. I mean, this plant looks so great. We didn't plant it, it just popped up. But that's a cue to you that the temperatures are right, the weather is right, all the right things in nature is happening for this plant to grow happily. So stop and take a look and see what your garden is telling you. All right, so we're back at the north end of my garden. If you watched last month's garden tour, a lot of this is gonna look familiar. Just some notes of things to think about. Sweet peas, they're really starting to look kind of terrible, but that's because they've been seeding for quite some time now. So if you started yours later than October, yours are probably a lot smaller and in full bloom. Those are way ahead of yours. That's okay, that's for seed production. Have some beautiful straw flower. Look at these. Oh God, if you haven't grown these before, you gotta grow them. Can you hear this? They literally feel like paper and they last forever in a bouquet. Gorgeous, beautiful plant called straw flower. We've got a bunch of stuff seeding here. This is our Ethiopian kale. Looks like a mess. Seed production is not pretty. I apologize. We have some really beautiful status that we're trialing here, which I'm so excited. This is another flower that the blooms last forever, and it's really easy to start from seed. I'm hoping that we can carry it in our catalog soon. It's just such a neat flower. I have literally yellow blooms that my friend Ed gave me like 2 years ago, still in a vase, still look just as gorgeous, and they're completely alive. It's amazing. Let's look over here at our maters. Very excited about these guys. So you saw in a video I don't know, it's been 2-3 weeks ago that we shot the video, and they were just little tiny babies. Now, look at this huge stalk on them. They're growing so nicely. Over here, I've got one that's already pinned up. And I'm just gonna come out here with my coffee in the morning. This is a indeterminate slicer heirloom tomato. I like to clarify that. And for that reason, I'm gonna really stay on top of pruning off the suckers, because I wanna train it to 1 liter up this string. For full details on that, you can check out our video on our tomahawk system and how that works and the science behind that. So things in the garden are looking good. It is a beautiful time to be out and planting. We're spending all weekend, every weekend out at our Ramona farm trying to get seed crops up and going for you guys. So stay tuned as we post more videos.